feel like there's just some like light jazz, some light lo-fi or not.
That'd be cool. Pete, I can't see people are joining, so just let me know when to kick it off, and then I can kick it off for everybody.
Sure. Is my screen still visible?
No, I don't see it.
Great.
There we go.
Cool. All right, whenever you're ready, Aaron.
Awesome. Well, hi everyone. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Aaron, the grants lead at the Uniswap Foundation, and welcome to our November community call. Excited to see already. I can kind of see the chat and people now rolling in. I see some grantees, delegates, and developers, and it looks like we have some new people joining the community call. So we're excited to update you on what's going on within the Uniswap community. We have a pretty stacked agenda today. So after I give you some updates on the foundation, you'll hear about Uni Day at DevCon, UniChain grant opportunities, the Uniswap Security Fund, which is subsidized hook audits, crypto economic research, and we'll kind of go over Futarchy, which is conditional funding in markets, and then we'll give you an update on the hooks of the month. I'm hyped, so let's kick this off with some of the UF operational updates. Cool. We just announced our Q3 financials, which ended September 30th, and our update went live on November 13th, which you can find on Miro. Check out the Miro post, which will drop in the chat here for a full unaudited breakdown of our finances. Yeah, thanks, Beta, for sharing. A big call out, V4 bug bounty went live today. This is the largest crypto bug bounty to date with a total pool of 15.5 million. Big call out as well as there's no end date of this bug bounty, so it will continue to run. So if you're a developer and auditor, make sure to check this out. We'll share some information on this as well in the chat below. Yeah, the next I want to call out UniChain. Today, UniChain's testnet is live for all developers. Over the past 6 weeks, we've been monitoring and improving UniChain stability and activity while providing a testing ground for developers interested in deploying on UniChain. Even with the usage of testnet exceeding our initial expectation, the network has remained stable and reliable, which is exciting to see. Now I know everyone's eager to hear more about mainnet timelines. We'll provide updates on the timing over the next few weeks, so be on the lookout for them. We really can't wait to bring UniChain to mainnet soon, which requires us to continue to build an uncompromising standards of security and safety to ensure developers are able to deploy with confidence. Cool. So I know that I'm seeing a lot of new faces here. So for the new people in the audience today, I figured I'd share the goal and the mission of the UF, and then dive a little bit into the specific goals of each of our grant categories. Our core goal is to see the most important ideas in DeFi, which are your ideas. And our mission is to create a more open and equitable financial system by championing innovation across the Uniswap community. With that, I'll get more in depth with each of the various categories that we have, which include 5 key categories. Those categories are protocol, developers, governance, research, and security. The focus of the protocol category is to implement a sustainable protocol model that reinforces growth. This includes both V4 and UniChain. The developer category focuses on building a robust developer community for the Uniswap protocol. Governance focuses on building and implementing a resilient governance model for the Uniswap protocol. Research focuses leading technology advances in the AMA space. And security focuses on upholding the Uniswap protocol's reputation for reliability and security. Across these categories, there are many exciting initiatives that I can talk about, but today I really want to double click on one of the most successful grants that we've had in the developer category, which I'm sure most of you have heard about, which is the Uniswap Hooks Incubator, which we are doubling down on already for this year as well as 2025, the follow-on grant for expansion. Looking back on year 1 of the Uniswap Hooks Incubator, we've been blown away by the impact UHI has had as a whole. Some cool things and updates here. In March of 2024, we gave the HM Academy team a grant to launch this initiative. The first cohort, we had an expectation of just getting 50 developers to join, and we doubled that amount with 100 developers, which accumulated in 36 new hooks being developed in the final stages of their capstones. In July, we had 150 developers join our second cohort, and they ended up producing 55 hooks during the capstone phase. And last month, the third cohort saw 165 developers join, and that currently is still in flight, but you can imagine we're expecting more hooks to be developed from that as well. Big call out here is just this month, we announced a follow-on grant to Atrium to expand the UHI for another year to develop additional resources for developers. And I'll get into those resources and what those look like in a little bit. Some major call outs for year one, some highlights. Students in the program have built over 90 hooks. We've seen a 55% retention rate, which is incredible. That's more than double the comparable programs similar to the Hooks Incubator, not only in the crypto space, but in the EdTech space as a whole. Another major call out that's great to see is across these cohorts, we see 50 plus countries represented in each one of these cohorts. And teams from these cohorts, like Somatic Layer, have advanced their projects beyond just the Uniswap Hooks Incubator, secured venture capital funding to continue to grow and expand and build out their hooks. It was exciting to see one of the students and graduates, Gordon Lau, chief economist at Circle, who went through the program, speak at Uni Day. Want to just call out something that, his direct feedback on the Hooks Incubator, quote from him. The Uniswap Hooks Incubator was an extraordinary experience that enabled me to delve into the capabilities of V4, a complete open platform that empowers anyone in this community to participate and innovate. I think this is a great call out. This is why developers are excited about V4 and also excited about learning through HM Academy on how to build hooks within V4. We cannot wait for year two of the working with HM Academy and expanding on developer support and the impact. As mentioned, some things this includes is a self-paced course. We know that we've been running a cohort-based program, but we've heard feedback from all developers, some that are unable to attend. So we spun up a self-paced course. So for developers that can't commit to the full-time program, they can work through this. We're also developed some step-by-step guides for those that are already a little farther along in their journey and just need some additional guidance. They'll be able to access these guides and be able to dive right into building out hooks themselves. For those graduates, students, and other people in the space, we've launched weekly events with HM Academy as well. So you can continue your learning experience beyond just going through the initial cohort or these self-paced programs. And then for anyone that's new and looking to actually get involved in future cohorts, next year we'll be launching 4 additional cohorts of HM Academy. So be on the lookout for that. I know the current cohort number 4 enrollment's live, and we'll make sure to share out a link for that as well. And if you are interested, as I just mentioned, you can apply to the cohorts at hm.academy/Uniswap, and we'll make sure to drop that link in the chat if you could, Beta. That's all the call outs that I have for today around, the UF updates and operations. I'm going to be passing this off to Straith to give a big update around Uni Day. As a reminder, I'm sure people do have questions, but if you could just hold them to the end or post them in the chat, we'll make sure to get back to them. Passing it off to you, Straith.
Cool. Thank you. Hi, I'm Straith, and for those of you that I haven't yet met, I lead marketing for the UF. Today I'm really excited to share a short overview and a recap of Uniday, which we hosted on November 11th, right before DevCon. So just for context, this was our second edition of Uniday after running our first Uniday event earlier this summer in Brussels. It was an event that was designed to be a collaborative effort between us and with you all, the community. And to help bring it to life, we worked really closely with the labs team as well as with Flashbots, and also with direct participation from community members and grantees. Our goal for Uniday was really to bring together voices from across Uniswap to explore new pathways for decentralization and for unification, to provide our community with a really deep look at what we're working on with Unichain, and also, and probably most critically, to celebrate the work of builders from across the community. I guess I want to say first that we were so stoked to see so many community members come out. This was a daytime event, a daytime conference, and then an evening workshop, panel, and party. We had over 30 speakers present. We also had 1,000 people come out across these two events. We had a really, really large remote audience tuning in with us with over 100K video views. So again, at this kind of point in our ecosystem, it felt really poignant to be able to be in a room and in a space with you all for UNI Day just a few weeks ago. If you flip on to the next slide, what I'll share as well is a little breakdown of how we approached programming. The morning's keynote sessions were really designed to provide a deeper look into the road and the roadmap towards Unichain, with voices across, again, our ecosystem discussing approaches for scaling Ethereum. We heard from Mark and Chelsea at Uniswap Labs on the vision for Unichain as well as for unified UX. We heard from Shay from Flashbots about MEV alignment and from Mark Tyneway on the future of interop. And we also heard from Stani and Devin on growth factors for the next era of DeFi. So really deep and immersive conversations about what the next era of DeFi will look like across the morning. In the afternoon, our focus was really on community builders. So we ran concurrent workshops and talks dedicated to the work that our community is doing to drive DeFi forward. Flashbots led 2 TE workshops. Aaron and Kristen led a governance session, and Sauce provided an incredible workshop on how to build hooks on the fly. We also heard from individuals, teams, and speakers from across the broader Uniswap community on new applications and use cases, with sessions from Sorella, from Gordon, from Dan Robinson, and many, many more. And then we ended the day with Ethereum Decentralization Night, which brought together a panel that shared a really personal history of the ecosystem. We also programmed workshops and an installation of cars that function as demos for different execution environments. It was also a party, so a really nice way of capping our time together and setting the context for DevCon the following day. If you flip on to the next slide, I had to add a photo slide. But again, I think it was really, really meaningful and really poignant to see so much of our community together, especially with V4 and Unichain mainnet on the horizon. Across the day, not just like a really good vibe, but a lot of really provocative conversations about the world we build next and our role in it. So really excited about UNI Day. If I have one CTA, I'll drop it on the next page with a link, which would be to watch some of the sessions. We publish a thread with all of the talks. They're incredible. If anybody wants to see or have access to the presentations, hit me up. And then I think the last thing that's top of mind for us is we're in the middle of planning our 2025 event calendar. Of course, we'd love to see you there, I think, but more importantly, we'd love to have your input and your collaboration in shaping what we do together. So we'll send out a survey for feedback on ETH Global, on UNI Day, and UF events. Separately, if you have thoughts, ideas, feedback, please don't feel shy about reaching out to me and the team directly. We want UNI Day to belong to you, to be for you, to be impactful for you. So we're really excited for what we do next. Thank you.
Hello, I am Ken. That was amazing, Shreve. I'm so sad I missed out on Uni Day. Fortunately, I had family stuff to do, but I missed out on the Muay Thai shorts, which is crazy swag to give out. And I've just been binging the Uni Day videos. It's been great. It's just so awesome to be able to see like just a high concentration of people who are like focused on building the future of DeFi and really thinking about how Uniswap is sort of like the connective tissue that helps scale Ethereum. Man, so amazing. Okay, I'm going to talk about grants today. I'm Ken. I lead research and growth at Uniswap Foundation. I mean, this has been so much fun to just like watch all the builders, all the excitement from like existing teams, new teams, and just like the community for what Unichain means for the future of DeFi, but also like how we again like scale Ethereum with Unichain. And having Uniswap be at the heart of this is like such an amazing sort of shelling point. All right, but without further ado, I'm going to dive in and talk about the current opportunities that exist with the foundation. Yeah, so Nice. To start off, I'm going to talk about the Builder Open Call. So on unichain.org, there is a link for you to submit your project. In this, what we're calling the Builder Open Call. If you don't know where to go, you are looking for resources, but don't know exactly what types of resources that might be, you can obviously join the Discord, or you can submit the Builder Open Call. In that, you can apply specifically to receive funding. We'll direct you to different funding sources internally and elsewhere. If you need technical support for integrations, you're thinking about how you're deploying on Unichain, something's happening in testnet, this is your go-to. If you want go-to-market resources, you're deploying this new project, you came out of an ETH Global Hackathon, you won a prize, or even if you didn't, you can come here. We'll send you to the right place. And we would love to just know like what other types of support you need from us. We can try to meet those, or we'll tell you how we can try to direct you in the right places to find the support services that you need. That's the Builder Open Call. It is open for everyone. Next, we have the Infinite Hackathon. This is our way of really inspired by Eigenlayer. So that tip there. This is our way to sort of continue driving momentum for projects who are just getting started, right? If you come out of a hackathon, again, if you didn't win, totally fine. A lot of projects come out of hackathons as superstars and did not win a prize, right? Out of ETH Global projects like 1inch came out of ETH Global, Set Protocol came out of ETH Global. There's so many. But this is our way of really trying to extend more support for any teams building on Unichain. If you submit it into a hackathon, you can also submit here. It's going to be judged by a committee of DeFi experts, which we'll share very soon. And we're awarding up to $7,500 for any of these projects. We really want to just ensure that as you're building these projects, you are capturing momentum and sort of really kind of leveraging everything at your disposal through the foundation to kind of bring about the vision you want to see with your project on Unichain. So that's the purpose of the Infinite Hackathon. And we have, boom, retro grants. So for this, it's a nomination form. You can nominate yourself. Don't worry about that. But you should nominate others too. You know, we're an ecosystem, we're a community. We're building this together. So this is for, as the name entails, retro grants. It's also judged by the same committee of DeFi experts, and it's also awards up to 7.5K. But this one is based on traction, right? So you can imagine team you've deployed on Unichain, and you're getting your first couple of trades in, you're getting order flow, you're getting liquidity. What's next? How do you continue to scale your project? Well, retro grants are really the perfect place for you to get more exposure. You get more funding that you can use for your own team to build it out, to scale your product, or you can use it for incentives. You can take that and do whatever you want with it. The point of it is to really kind of see your project grow on Unichain. So we're really excited to see teams come through once Unichain is fully launched. Now, question, what do we build? What do we do here? What is Unichain? Unichain is a generalized L2. So there's endless amounts of things you can do. We're gonna tee it up a little bit with some focuses that we've kind of thought about. What can building on Unichain actually look like, right? With EVN, with Flash blocks, like there is technological innovation here that you can really leverage for your project. So what are the things, right? Number one, I think we can talk about liquidity activators. What does that mean? Well, how do you actually attract and activate liquidity? Can we make it more capital efficient? Can we do more things with it? How do we extend what already exists for liquidity on chain? How do we think about that in the context of what Unichain enables, right? With Flash blocks, what can we do with shorter block times? How do we think about a staking network? Yeah, I'll let your imagination fly there. The next thing, novel trading mechanisms. What are new methods of trading? Right? And this is sort of the most open thing, and this is the most exciting thing for me because we don't know yet. We're really kind of sort of opening the field here for anyone with any crazy idea for how to instill new trading mechanisms to really just deploy it and let's see where we go. The next thing is improving LP experiences, right? Are there new tools or even a V4 hook when that's live too that improve upon the previous tooling, that exists today, right? Can we increase the flexibility of how LPs are LPing? Like, what does that look like for liquidity? Are there new automations? Are there new ALMs that exist given given how Unichain works with liquidity across all the other DeFi protocols? Can we think about risk management differently? Are there improved risk management profiles? Can we create new risk profiles managed through new DeFi protocols? Can we leverage hooks to actually manage risk better? All these things are sort of open. I'd love to see. What does underwriting look like as a hook? Who knows? And then lastly, this is also kind of open, but the idea of consumer products. I think, with Uniswap in the past, you haven't really thought about consumer products outside of, the wallet interface. But how do hooks enable this, right? How do we think about Unichain and V4 to really onboard consumers to, potentially new payment rails? Can commerce programs exist here? Can we create a point of sale system through a hook? And what does it mean to activate liquidity differently for consumers specifically? Yeah, I'll leave that there. But happy to answer any questions. And thank you for listening to me vent and rant. Thanks, guys.
Awesome. Cool. It's my turn now, I guess. Hi, everyone. I'm Dennis. I'm a VP at Areta. And today I'll share with you how the Uniswap Foundation Subsidy Fund is empowering V4 Hooks builders. We can go on the next one. And I'll quickly share a very brief introduction to Areta with you. We are a crypto native investment bank with two divisions. Our investment banking side focuses on M&A, secondaries, capital raises, pretty much the things you would expect from JP Morgan or Goldman, but focused on tokens and equity in crypto companies. I work in the governance unit, which is more of like a McKinsey for DAOs. We advise foundations and DAOs on capital allocation, like for instance, the subsidy fund, governance design, and professional delegation too. It's a privilege that we work with all top ecosystems, and particularly exciting to work here with Uniswap. That's it already about Areta, nothing more to share. So quickly jumping into the subsidy fund, which is very interesting. It's focused on V4 Hooks builders, and let me quickly tell you why it matters. All Hooks projects that want to deploy are in need of a security audit, but those security audits, they come with two issues. First, there's a wide range of audit providers with varying quality, and it's a hard time for projects to choose the right one. Second, those audits are also pretty expensive, typically costing like tens of thousands of dollars. And also the price difference between providers is quite big. Thanks to the grant from the Uniswap Foundation, we built a subsidy fund of 1 million to address these challenges and support Hooks builders with their audit costs. How we do this is shown in the next slide, which is the marketplace slide. Yes, perfect. Because we want to enable projects to get most of this initiative, we are building a dedicated marketplace with 3 key components. We have the whitelisted audit firms, V4 Hooks builders, and the marketplace itself. So I think it makes sense if I walk you through each of those elements. First, not every security service provider can participate. Rather, we conducted an in-depth evaluation and shortlisted 16 providers out of 27 applications. At the moment, those providers are undergoing KYC and legal agreements, and then they will be officially whitelisted. If you are a provider, unfortunately, the application period is already closed here, but feel free to reach out maybe for future iterations. On the other side, we have the V4 Hooks builders. And the interesting part here is that the application window closes only on Friday. So if you haven't applied yet, or you know someone who could benefit, now is the time to act. Can we go one back, Vita? Then yes, perfect. Now would be the time to act and to apply. How the marketplace works is that both whitelisted audit firms and the V4Hooks builders meet here on the marketplace. And V4Hooks projects, they post their requirements, and all whitelisted providers can submit their quotes. Projects can then choose the quote that they like the best and that meets their needs. And the good thing is that because all of those firms are already whitelisted, quality is guaranteed. And also, since they are competing here, the projects get the best services they could possibly get. Finally, the subsidy fund covers up to 100% of the audit fees. This means that projects, they can secure the best quality services, get the audits for free, saving time and potentially also thousands of dollars. Yeah, now we can go to the last one, which is like a very specific call to action, considering that the applications close this Friday. Please apply if you're a V4Hooks project builder. If you know someone, please share it. Happy to disperse all the funds that are available. I think also Peter also shared the application form. Perfect. And yeah, that's it from my end. Thank you so much.
Hey, everybody. I'm Fahad, and I'm a professor of finance at the University of Florida with a joint appointment at MIT. And you may all wonder then, what is a professor of finance doing on a Uniswap call? I'm actually here representing something called the CBER Forum, the Crypto and Blockchain Economic Research Forum. And to just give you some context on where we're coming from, Ken actually mentioned a bunch of really interesting questions. Things like, can we use hooks in order to design mechanisms for liquidity provision that are better than the ones that we see in the traditional world? And it's exactly those sorts of questions that has led to a lot of interest from a number of communities in academia to address those questions. And that's kind of the starting point for where the CBR forum comes from. Beta, could we flip yeah. So as it turns out, there are a number of communities existing in, for instance, academia that are interested in exactly those sorts of questions. And these communities have different tools and sort of different insights from prior context. But ultimately, these communities, whether they're economists or engineers or computer scientists, are actually trying to understand the same sorts of things that Ken was alluding to, and that more generally industry researchers are interested in. And so the CBR forum basically was an idea that was started a few years ago, specifically with the thought process that, hey, if we're all interested in these sort of same questions and we all have something to contribute, maybe we should be having one conversation rather than disparate, isolated conversations. And so it really is just an attempt to bridge the various communities that have something to contribute to these conversations and to figure out a way to actually solve these problems that we all care about. Now, one of the things I want to emphasize, though, is that the people who are involved in the CBR forum, whether or not you're familiar with the CBR forum itself, you probably are familiar with the people who've already been involved with it over the years. So on the slide, we have references to a number of people. I won't go through each of them individually, but I just want to give you a little bit of sort of context about what their relevance to you might already have been. So for instance, I'm guessing, almost everybody, if not everybody on this call, has probably heard of loss versus rebalancing. Well, loss versus rebalancing was a concept that was first put out by a couple of academics, including Siamak Molemi, who's a professor of engineering at Columbia University, and Tim Roughgarden, who's a professor of computer science at Columbia University. And Siamak and Tim are two of the most active people in our community. They presented, both of them, at our most recent in-person event a couple of weeks ago. They're both fellows of the CBR Forum, and they've even hosted our events. So I won't go through everybody here, but the point is that the CBR Forum is not just something brand new. It's something that's been ongoing and and the researchers involved in our community have, I think, very much already been affecting the conversation in terms of these questions that we all want to understand better. So it's one thing to say that, okay, we want to bridge communities, but ultimately you always want a goal. Like, what is the effect of that? And I sort of alluded to it, but let me say it more explicitly. Ultimately, what we're hoping to do is we're hoping to be able to sort of merge, let's say, the rigor of academia with the practical relevance that we see in industry research, right? So we want to bring sort of the tools that already exist and the rigor that already exists in academia and apply it to things that we really care about in the real world, right? And so at a high level, what are the sorts of topics that we want to see rigorous research on? Well, MEV mitigation, hook design, order flow auction design, the design of solver models also, right? And a lot of this stuff, as an academic, I look at it and I think things like mechanism design, which is something that I think there is a lot that is known about this from the academic perspective, and part of the idea is we want to bring this to bear to the real world discussion going on, so that hopefully we can get answers and actually improve these, for instance, liquidity pool designs and so on going forward. So Beta, can we flip forward? Thank you. One thing specifically that we've done recently in order to try to sort of move in the right direction was to collaborate with the Uniswap Foundation on a new initiative, which we're calling the Crafting the Crypto Economy Initiative. And this initiative has essentially two components. One component goes very much to the heart of this idea of getting all these communities to sort of be on the same page, to understand each other and to work together. And that portion is fairly straightforward, which is we are specifically organizing events in order to sort of bring these communities together and to allow them to sort of engage deeply in thinking about the questions of relevance. And so I'll give you sort of concrete examples in a couple of slides, but there is a view here that, while virtual interactions are great, there is some incremental value to every once in a while having people actually sort of interact in person and get into heated discussions in person, because that can be very valuable. But the second component, which relates to CBR Forum being a grantee of Uniswap Foundation, is that we also want to provide the right incentives in order for people more and more to work on these questions that are important, right? And so we are actually providing funding for rigorous and relevant research. And one of the important points here is that we do then get to sort of control the dialogue about what counts as rigorous and rigorous and relevant, right? I think it's a fair critique against sometimes academics that a lot of times we don't have the right real world context and we end up studying things that are a bit stale. But as you will see that we are specifically setting up these funding calls so that it has a lot of industry input, and so that we can really sort of direct the research process in the right direction. And in fact, maybe let me give you a little bit more detail on that. Beta, thanks. So the specific funding aspect, the way it's set up is we're offering up to $50,000 per research proposal that is accepted. It is not just that we are sort of offering that amount. It's also that in some sense the effort involved is very small compared to other sorts of proposals, at least that academics are familiar with. So what I mean by that is that everybody involved in this funding, I would say, is not a fan of bureaucracy. And so we are not layering, they're not putting layers and layers of bureaucracy upon applicants, precisely because it's the people running it don't benefit from that either. So the idea here is, if you have a coherent research question that is actually relevant and you've thought about it deeply enough that you can sort of sketch out the methodology for it, That's really all that we were looking for. In fact, the portal, I think, had only 2 questions on it. One was tell us who you are, and the other one was tell us your proposal. So this is not sort of NSF style stuff. It's much more modern in that way. And it's not just, you know, funds unconditionally. One of the things that that we wanted to do is we wanted to make sure that whatever it is that we support is exposed very much to the community and has the opportunity to get feedback from the community so that it can be refined and improved. So one of the things that we're doing in tandem with the funding is that every single accepted proposal will have to present twice over the timeline for the proposal, which is a year, at our events. And so very much they'll get direct exposure and feedback from all the communities I was alluding to earlier. Another important piece, of course, is that, you know, in terms of the selection of the proposals, the topic is very important. The methodology is also very important, but the topic is important. And so we are specifically looking for topics of current relevance like MEV mitigation, hooks, OFA design, solver model design, etc. And one way to sort of enforce this is in the way that we set up the selection committee. So there is very much, again, a view that we need more collaboration between industry and university researchers. So we have a selection committee that bridges that. There's 6 members. Half of them are university faculty and half of them are industry, are currently in industry. I'm one of the members from university faculty. We also have Agostino Caponi from Columbia University and Andreas Park from the University of Toronto. On the industry side, we have Brad Bachu, who I'm sure you all know. He was in a previous life, he was a theoretical physicist, and now he's one of the researchers at Uniswap Labs. We have Barnaby Monod, who is the head of the Robust Incentives Group at the Ethereum Foundation. And of course, we have Ken, who you heard from earlier and who has been very much involved in terms of the strategic planning here, by the way, for the CTCE initiative. Let me also give you a little bit of perspective on the events that we're running. So at this point, we're basically running 2 to 3 events every year. We have been running all of our events in New York City on purpose, basically because there's a feeling that there's a certain amount of critical mass in this community in New York City. And of course, because it's also relatively easy to travel to, at least in terms of, you know, flights. And so the hope is that, you know, these regular events can sort of build a community, but let me also give you a little bit of perspective on kind of what happens at these events, because of course we'd very much welcome those of you not familiar with it to be attending these events. So for instance, we just had an event a couple of weeks ago, which was sort of the launch for the CTCE part, and it was held at Columbia University. And one of the thought processes for this event was that the world of crypto actually moves very fast. So even for the people who are very in it, it's hard to keep pace, particularly with things which are not exactly in your area. Right. So if you spend all your time thinking about what might happen under V4 with hooks, you may not be as familiar with what's going on in the layer 2 space. And so the specific program that we had set up for this conference a couple of weeks ago invited a whole bunch of people with expertise in very different areas of crypto. And the point was to sort of educate the room and get everybody on the same page about what is actually going on and what are the questions that we all should be studying. So for example, we had Ed Felton speaking on rollups. We had Brad on OFA design. We had a university researcher from Duke, Cam Harvey, talking about regulation of decentralized exchanges. And we had Julian Ma from the Ethereum Foundation on MEV mitigation. I should say what I have here is only a small sample of what was actually on the program, but it's just to give you a flavor that the idea was that we did want to kind of cover a whole bunch of areas, but we wanted to have people who are in the frontier of these areas in order to get sort of level set everybody so that then people can talk about, you know, current points of inquiry that are important. Our next event actually is going to be with Uniswap Labs, also at Columbia and in New York City. And we will have components there that, as with the prior conference I just mentioned, will be aimed at sort of getting everybody on the same page about the most recent happenings. So we're going to have a session on an overview of hooks and an overview on Unichain. Presumably V4 will be deployed on mainnet by then, so maybe you will even get to hear not just conceptually, but even, you know, what's kind of happening on the chain. At the same time, we will also have sort of the university researchers presenting to the room about what we see as relevant from the existing economics literature that can perhaps be better internalized by, for instance, developers when they're thinking about what they want to do in terms of design. And then we have a conference coming up later on in the year, which will be at NYU, of course, also in New York City. And I should say that the accepted proposals for the CTCE funding that I mentioned on the previous slide will be asked to present at least one of the two upcoming events, and then we'll also be asked to present later in the year because the idea is that they can get some feedback in either March or June, and then they can internalize that and provide us something a bit more polished later in the year. So with that, let me perhaps just leave you with a few points of contact. So first and foremost, if you're interested in understanding or learning more about what the CBR Forum has been doing, you can check out our website at cbr-forum.org. We also have a video library, which, for instance, consists of currently like a lot of these talks I was mentioning from our last conference and so on. I think there are overall about 100 videos across our prior events. I should mention we also have webinars, and those are also on the video library. But if there's one point of contact I want to particularly highlight, it is that so one thing that is important, again, because this space moves very fast, is to sort of keep everybody abreast with what's happening. And the easiest way to do this is to essentially, I think, through events, having invited speakers who are at the frontier. But we all have blind spots. And so part of what I want to say to the room right now is that if you feel, for instance, particularly that, let's say, academics have a big blind spot in a particular area and need to better understand something in the space that we're not currently properly aware of, please do reach out and let me know and let us know, because we'd love to feature basically aspects of the space that are understudied and that are sort of not sufficiently currently familiar to the researchers in the area. So if you do think you have some ideas in that sense, whether it's whatever you're working on or somebody else in the space that you may know, please do reach out at contact@cbr-forum.org. Again, we want to feature things that can get researchers aware of what the proper frontier is and what the big questions actually are. And given how fast the space moves, that's actually very hard to keep track of. So any help we can get in that regard is very much appreciated. So that's everything for me. Thank you for having me.
Hi, everybody. I'm Vaughan Mackenzie Landell. I'm one of the co-founders of Butter and a recent UF grantee. And today I'm just going to speak about conditional funding markets, what they mean for governance, and hopefully just give everyone a very high-level overview of Futaki and maybe how it's relevant to what we do here in crypto. So what is Butter? We like to describe it as a distributed intelligence for protocol ecosystems. Another way of thinking about it is it's a system that pairs very well with other forms of governance, hence the name. I'm the guy at the top there. That's obviously not what I look like, but my handle is not your handle. Again, loads of puns. Also, my second co-founder, the technical one, is Alex. That's not what he looks like, but much closer, who's also on the call. And we've been working in the space now for quite a while, maybe about 2 years. Spent a lot of time really just trying to make sure we really understood the problems that governance was facing. And as many of you will probably know, tried loads of different ideas, and recently have become really quite compelled by the power of markets, and specifically speculative markets and prediction markets, to help with decision making. This picture was taken at GG, an event that we held with Edge City in partnership with the Uniswap Foundation earlier this year in Hillsburg, California. And while there, we really I guess like the ideas coalesced. I've been speaking to Erin now about governance for quite some time, and lots came together, and really the output of that was and definitely informed the development of conditional funding markets. So I like to think that Uniswap had a huge hand in getting us to this point. So very, very excited about what's about to happen. A grant was recently announced earlier this month. And also we've paired this with a partnership with Optimism. So we'll be deploying conditional funding markets in partnership with both Uniswap Foundation and Optimism Foundation early next year. So what I wanted to do was kind of ground conditional funding markets in something that feels very relevant. Many people will recognize this as a proposal that went through governance recently and passed, thankfully. The idea here is it's a proposal that goes through governance that's trying to deal with capital allocation, one of the 4 real types of governance problems that protocols face. So one being protocol upgrades, one being parameter updates, another one being policy updates, and finally capital allocation. This passed, but I really want to use this as an example of kind of breaking down how DAOs make decisions today with token voting. So one thing to remember when we consider how token voting works is that most individuals who participate in governance, first and foremost, if you abstract away most of the things that are kind of tied to each individual, is really the only thing you can say about each person participating is that they are dangerously long themselves, i.e. they are self-interested. And what this means is every vote can best be considered as a token-weighted, specifically token holder voting, a token-weighted average of their interests. Now, what's interesting about this is if you just take one way of aggregating people's preferences, which is through voting, there are other ways of aggregating that information, especially when you want to make a decision. We ran a workshop at Edge Lana in Thailand a few weeks ago now. And what we asked people to do was to put different problem areas on a board. And then we gave each participant, I would bear in mind that lots of the people in the room were delegates, but there were other people involved in the ecosystem. We gave each person 2 dots and dot stickers and asked them to just put them on whichever problem they thought was most valuable to solve. And so one day we got a collection of votes. You'll see that things like delegate incentives obviously got a high vote, accountability got a high vote. The second day we asked people, we gave people tokens, fake tokens, and we asked them to actually bid on these problem areas. And the idea was that if the problem area was to be solved, and you were the person who owned that proposal, you would actually get to privatize the returns generated by that proposal. And we saw a very different distribution of bids. And so here you see that accountability got a really high number of bids, and things like voter apathy got a very low number of bids. And the information, the kind of takeaway from that is that if you ask people to perform or to give you some information or signal in a different way using a different mechanism, you get very different outputs. And this is really why we think markets could be a very useful tool in the overall governance infrastructure. So the real takeaway here, and I think I want you to take away is not that markets are perfect, just that they're different. Voters have an unknown stake in the outcome of the proposal. As I said before, all you really know is that they are dangerously long themselves and very self-interested. Bidders, however, can be given an explicit stake in an outcome we choose. This actually is the core insight of Futarchy. And Futarchy allows us to give bidders skin in the game in games or outcomes that give us the information we need to make a decision. And now I'm going to try and give you a very quick example. Again, hopefully this doesn't take up too much time. So you can think about a market as a decentralized information aggregator. You can use it to make predictions. Actually, lots of the markets and prices in markets are used for making predictions all the time. Let's say we took $1 and we locked it in a contract, and we said that this contract can only be accessed, the dollar can only be accessed on the condition that candidate A wins, or on the condition that candidate B wins, as indicated by the second arrow. And this is the mechanism that sits at the heart of prediction markets. These are kind of conditional outcomes. These are just prediction outcomes. You can actually use this to kind of design all kinds of prediction markets. Now, the way that a prediction market works is people can now decide what the price of each of those contracts are. So if you believe that candidate A wins half the time and you believe that candidate B wins half the time, then each of those contracts is only worth 50 cents. This is the idea of probability. If 50% of the time one of these candidates will win, then you're only willing to spend up to 50 cents to buy the contract. Now, interestingly, if you think there's a chance that candidate B is more likely to win, then maybe you'd be willing to buy that contract more so than you would be willing to buy the first contract. And so the candidate B, as you buy this contract, you should push the price up. And this is the mechanism by which a market price can come to represent the beliefs of the people who participate in the market. This is a primitive that we can use pretty much everywhere to design these kind of games that give us the outcomes we want. Yeah, so in this regard, candidate B wins. I would then obviously have bought the contract for 50 cents, pushing the price of 51 cents, but I would get to redeem a whole dollar. So you can use this as a primitive for decisions. So let's take the original Tally proposal and let's try and redesign it as a decision market, or indeed as a futarchy. So again, we have our two outcomes. And again, this example is deliberately simplified, but we could have contracts that pay out $1 if funding Tally increases voter retention by, say, over 20%. This is the outcome that we really want. And a good way of thinking about futarchy is futarchy asks the traders or bidders to think about potential future worlds where the event that they want to happen, which is that we increase voter retention, as an example, does happen. And in that world, what value do you think you would ascribe to that contract? So if you think there's only a 50% chance that funding Tally increases voter retention, then that contract is only worth 50 cents. And so you can see how this could allow you to create the kind of preconditions for a decision. So let's say that people participate in this market, and overall, traders believe that the chance that that funding Tally increases voter retention by over 20% is 70%. So 70% of the time this world does exist. Then we should absolutely use that to fund Tally. And we should see this decision. There we go. That's a decision. So we can actually use this primitive to make the decision itself. So you can have these prediction markets become decision markets and kind of automate this whole system end to end. And the next slide should just say selected. There we go. So this is basically, if you go to the next slide, is a conditional funding market. It's really just making this it's just asking people to predict whether if we take some particular decision, in this case, a funding decision, will it produce the result that we want? Very simple. We can create one of these, many of these. We can target different metrics for different types of funding decisions, and we can kind of stitch these things together. So this is just an example of how our application would look if it was still considering the same question. So again, by how much will each project grow its retention? We have different options, and you can see here on the right that there's kind of an AMM style interface that allows you to buy positions in each of these potential outcomes. So just to round up, futarchy, ELI5, if you're just trying to really remember how it works, if markets believe that some outcome given you make decision A is more valuable than the same outcome given you make decision B, then you should absolutely choose decision A. What we're really hoping is that we can use futarchy at Uniswap to make funding decisions in a way that's very simple, easy to understand, and we'd love to kind of hear if there's anybody who's interested in participating, and we're hoping that we'll have a lot of more information going into the forum over the next few months, and that these markets will be rolling out early next year. Obviously, reach out to me if you have any questions. I'm just not your handle on Telegram. Thank you.
Sweet. Thank you so much. If anyone has questions, please send them in the chat.
The last question just came in from Getty. I believe it's for the Butters team. When do you believe these will go live?
Yeah, happy to answer this. So we're currently aiming for an early February go live date. As you know, that might change, but happy to speak about it. And obviously there'll be a process by which we engage with the community to just really try and figure out exactly how people can participate and the kind of appetite. Again, we've spoken to a few of you already. But yeah, I'll probably land in your inbox in the next couple of days.
Awesome. We'll give a couple more minutes for any additional questions. I spent some time Vita answering them in the chat. I think I addressed them all, or they were covered throughout the discussion. But we'll give people a couple more minutes to ask anything that they may have.
We also actually have one more segment, which is Hooks of the Month, but we're having some technical issues. All right, there we go. There's David.
Okay. Hi. Hey, everyone. My name is David Schwartz. I'm the Developer Experience Lead at the Uniswap Foundation. Today, I will be presenting 3 hooks of the month. So let's get into it. The first hook is from the winner from the ETH Global Bangkok Hackathon, Iceberg. It was built with the Phoenix L2. So essentially, it allows for encrypted limit orders. How it works is that all the information related to the order, including the price, direction, and amount of the order, is all kept private. And when the order is sent, it actually encrypts a transfer of both tokens. The first token that you're actually trying to use in the trade has the amount encrypted, and the second token has a 0 amount encrypted. So anyone watching the trade has no idea which direction or any information about the trade. Inside of the after swap hook, it checks if the price has been met on the encrypted order, and then if it has, it'll execute the trade and send the tokens. So a very well executed hook by Joe Marin. That's the first one. Up next, we have Excalibra. This is an LVR minimization hook. And how it works is essentially the hook controls the liquidity in the pool. And at the top of the block, when there's that first trade coming to look at arbitraging the prices of a pool, what it does is it withdraws 90% of the liquidity. So the arbitrage swap only takes a much smaller amount of the tokens from the LPs. And then after that swap, the liquidity is re-added at the new price. So yeah, that was actually second prize at the ETH Global DevCon hackathon. And then the last hook I want to talk about is from Flare. There's actually 2 things here. The first is the internal swap pool. And this is a very interesting design where LPs essentially, you might have token ABC against ETH, but the LPs really want the ETH fees. So how it works is when the swap goes towards the direction of the fees coming into ETH, that goes directly to the LPs. But when the fees are in the ABC tokens, those fees get sent to a separate storage section in the hook. And essentially, they sit there building up more ABC tokens until a user wants to buy the ABC tokens with ETH, and all of the ETH that they use to buy the tokens in that separate hook storage gets converted to ETH and sent to the LPs directly. So this also, all the tokens in the hook storage are sold directly at the spot price. So it's good for buyers of ABC token, and it's also good for LPs. The last piece of this that is built by Flare is called a progressive bid wall. And how that works is when the fees are in ETH, actually a small portion of the ETH fees are put at the tick before the spot price to sort of support the price of the ABC token. And as the price goes up, it's always put at the tick before. So the more trading, the more fees in ETH, the more of a buy wall you have supporting the price of ABC token. Yeah, so those are the 3 hooks we wanted to highlight this month. Yeah, that's it.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, David. If anyone has any last questions, please send them in the chat. Otherwise, we're at time and we will let you all go. Thank you so much for joining November's community call.
Thanks, everybody. Cool, we got some questions. Did you already ask for the attendance of delegates? Yep, we shared the event out with delegates both via email, Telegram, and a few other communication channels. Majority of the attendees today were actually delegates, so that question's answered. I have a question with regards to SIB reform. Can we also apply for grants for more practical engineering projects such as innovative swap hooks? for the forum, that would not be the place. But what you can do is actually, I will type in my email for you and send it to you privately. You can reach out to me directly via email, provide information of what you're thinking, and then we can discuss there. Awesome. I'll give it a couple more minutes. Yes, the recording will be available, and we'll make sure to share that out with the community as well. Recordings are typically available a week after the call.
Okay, I think we're good.
Awesome. Thanks everybody for joining.